Ya Rab. Inshallah, we're going to get started now. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد أشرف الخلق وسيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا سهلا رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم أخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم إلى نور الفهم وأكرمنا بمعرفة العلم وزين أخلاقنا بالحلم يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم بارك لنا في العام الهجري الجديد اللهم بارك لنا فيه اللهم اكتبنا فيه من عبادك الفائزين اللهم اغفر لنا ما قدمنا وما أخرنا وما أسررنا وما أعلنا وما أسرفنا وما أنت أعلم به منا تب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم اللهم اغفر لنا زلاتنا أصلح أحوالنا ردنا إليك مردا جميلا يا رب العالمين ولا تجعل هذا العام ينسلخ إلا وقد فرج عن أهل غزة ما هم فيه يا رب العالمين اللهم يا ربنا أرنا عزة الإسلام والمسلمين اللهم أرنا نصرك الذي وعدت عبادك المؤمنين يا ربنا فرجا عاجلا غير آجل هيئ لنا قيادة ربانية تقودنا إلى مرضاتك يا رب العالمين اجعل خير عمرنا آخرة واجعل خير عملنا خواتمة واجعل خير أيامنا يوم نلقاك فيه وأنت راض عنا Ya Allah, we call upon you, pray to you, beseech you, we ask you to bless this new Hijri year for us. Ya Allah, we ask you to guide us and make us steadfast upon the right path. Ya Allah, make us of those who are deeply invested in their deen, those who follow the legacy of our Prophet ﷺ and the righteous predecessors, the companions. Ya Allah, we ask you to make us agents for change. Allow us to see a better world and a stronger ummah. Ya Allah, don't allow this year to finish except that our brothers and sisters in Gaza have been relieved of what they're in. Ya Allah, give charge of our affairs to the best of us, not the worst of us. Ya Allah, make the best of our days the last of our days, the best of our actions the last of our actions, and the best of all days the day we meet you and you're pleased with us, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Ameen, ameen, wa akhiru da'wana, alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Jazakumullah khair for attending today for the Friday Forum. We have a very important subject, the best of generations. We're going to be speaking about the Sahaba. And the reason why this subject is relevant right now is because with Muharram coming in, a new Hijri year, we're reminded of the Hijrah of our Prophet ﷺ. And there's a lot to say in terms of what our Prophet ﷺ did and taught through the Hijrah. But there's also a lot to say about the companions. And that's something that we do not speak enough about in terms of the sacrifices of the first builders in the history of our ummah, and how connecting with them and the way they lived with their lives is an important part of Iman and an important part of our Muslim identity. So inshallah, we're going to be spending time talking about this in the next hour until Salat al-Isha. But before we get into anything further, I'm going to pass it to Akhi Adam to share with us some introductory things. Jazakallah khair, Ustaz Adam.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Good to see everybody. Just some general housekeeping items. Inshallah, we're going to have tea and some light snacks on both sides. Just a general reminder to keep any conversations outside of the main musalla. Keep it in the side rooms, inshallah. We do have the Slido here, so if you have any questions, we would highly encourage sending them through the Slido. It makes this, significantly more interactive. Goes a lot smoother. And then just some general reminders of some upcoming events and programs that we should keep in mind of. The first being an event we have coming up in ICPC Patterson, July 12th, that's a Saturday, 8:30 p.m. It's going to be the Hijrah between hope and action with pretty much all of our beloved Mashaykh and a special guest as well. Beyond that, we have, now that summer is upon us, kids are out of school, we have a lot of youth programming that's going to begin this July. So if you have any kids, any brothers or sisters, I would highly encourage, look into it. You'll find it on the email, also on the WhatsApp group. There's going to be 2 or 3 camps that will be in August, and there's some programs that start now in the beginning of July. So I would jump on it because generally seats are limited. Another thing to keep in mind is Tuesday, July 8th, we have at the Shaykh, the city council meeting, correct? Tuesday, July 8th. It would be very helpful if everybody came out and supported 6:30 p.m. To show, to show our support in this community, to show the support that this masjid has from the community, so that hopefully we can get the expansion on track, inshallah. And with that, I pass it off to you, Shaykh.
طيب Bismillah. Jazakallah khair. There is one more thing that I wanted to emphasize. You guys see that QR code over there on the screen? That's an important thing for all of us to scan. So if you didn't do that at Salat al-Jumu'ah today, if you could please just take out your phone with the camera and scan the QR code. It basically has a pre-prepared message to send to the people, the elected officials that were on the assembly committee, that we're going to vote on the IRA definition for anti-Semitism. This was what we were calling for last Monday. We wanted our community to go out to Trenton because Zionists were trying to get this passed through this committee in the state assembly. And if it wasn't that our community showed up in big numbers, they probably would have voted on it. But alhamdulillah, because a lot of people went, they didn't vote on it. And they tabled it. And basically, if you don't know what this is, IHRA, I-H-R-A, this definition of anti-Semitism is basically to equate anything that is anti-Israel to being anti-Semitic. If you say anything against the state of Israel, that means you're someone who is anti-Semitic. That means you're against Jews. And this is, of course, not true at all. This is part of the distortions of terminology that we had to deal with in the time period that we live in, just like jihad has been distorted as a term, and terrorism has become synonymous with being Muslim. Along with that, anti-Semitism has been confused with being against what Israel is doing. So please scan it and send it so that they could see that our community is aware and our community is paying attention and we're not oblivious to what's happening. Barakallah fikum. For the subject, like we asked last week how many people listened to the khutbah. So by a show of hands, how many people listened to my khutbah from today? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Any of the one person, two people on the sister side? Most people didn't, alhamdulillah. So I could just repeat it right now and it'll be like brand new, right? I'm just kidding.
Inshallah, we had a really good slate today.
The khutbah today was about the Sahaba. Specifically, I mentioned 5 examples from the companions during the Hijrah that teach us a lot about the sacrifices of the companions in the first generation. Now, why is it important to learn about the Sahaba? Or is it important? Of course it is. In fact, we learn from our scholars that it is min qawa'id ad-din, hubb al-sahaba. It's a sign of faith and iman. How do we know this? Loving the companions. Why is it a sign of iman? Because what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? What's a phrase that was repeated about the Sahaba in many places of the Quran? Who knows? It's repeated in multiple places. About the Sahaba, about the companions. Radiyallahu anhum wa radu anh. Allah is pleased with them. Allah loves the Sahaba of the Prophet ﷺ. They were chosen to be Sahaba by Allah. Just as Allah chose Muhammad to carry the last message, He chose who will be His first aides and supporters from the Sahaba. And there's another thing the Prophet ﷺ said about the Ansar. Al-Ansar لا يحبهم إلا مؤمن ولا يبغضهم إلا منافق. The Ansar, only a believer loves them and only a hypocrite hates them. So that's why they actually say one of the kaba'ir is to say something bad about the Sahaba. It's min kaba'ir al-dhunub. Jazakallah khair. Allah barik feek. And they say even worse than this, speaking ill of the Sahaba or saying something bad about them is mu'dhinun bisu'il khatima. Someone that you see says something very, very bad about the Sahaba of the Prophet ﷺ, know this, Allah is not going to leave this unanswered. This will likely lead to them to have a bad end in their life. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. So, do you guys love the Sahaba? If you're going to love the Sahaba, what do you need to have? You need to have knowledge about the Sahaba, right? There's no way. كيف تحب الصحابة ولا تعرف شيئا عنهم. There's no way. There's no way that you could truly love the companions of the Prophet and know very little about their lives. And that's why we're in the summertime, right? This is a test, especially for our children. For all of us, but especially for our children. We need to make sure that part of this summer is spent with learning about namadij min hayat al-sahaba. Examples from the lives of the companions. It is the best way to actually build iman in the hearts. If I don't do this, then I won't have that same connection to my Islam because I don't know what iman's supposed to look like. You know, they say that the Prophet ﷺ's companions are a miracle in themselves. You know, if the Prophet didn't have any other miracle, no moon splitting, no water flowing between his fingers, none of the other miracles. If the Prophet ﷺ didn't have anything but the generation that he raised from among the Sahaba, this would have been enough. لكفوه في إثبات نبوته لو لم يكن لرسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم معجزة إلا أصحابه لكفوه في إثبات نبوته. That would have been enough. Who are the 5 companions that we mentioned in today's khutbah? Who knows? If you listen to the khutbah, tell me, who's one of them? Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. This is a companion that everyone should know about, of course. Sayyidina Abu Bakr. Who doesn't know about Sayyidina Abu Bakr? Sayyidina Abu Bakr is the greatest of Sahaba altogether. But there's something special that we need to know about Sayyidina Abu Bakr when it comes to the hijrah. First off, I guess before that, who's the only Sahabi that was mentioned by name in the Quran? Who knows? Who knows? Zayd. Where? Zayd what? Zayd ibn Haritha. Where was he mentioned? Surah Al-Ahzab. He's the only Sahabi mentioned by name. Now, when it comes to Sahaba that were spoken about in the Quran, Sayyidina Abu Bakr was mentioned multiple times, but not by name. What's an example of one of the ayat that mentions Sayyidina Abu Bakr in the Quran? Who knows? What is it? What is it? Do you know? إِلَّا تَنْصُرُوهُ فَإِهِ فَقَدْ نَصَرَهُ اللَّهُ إِذْ أَخْرَجَهُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا ثَانِيَ اثْنَيْنِ إِذْ هُمَا فِي الْغَارِ إِذْ يَقُولُ لِصَاحِبِهِ لَا تَحْزَنْ. Right? He tells his sahib, who's his sahib? Sayyidina Abu Bakr. إِذْ يَقُولُ لِصَاحِبِهِ لَا تَحْزَنْ. Who's his sahib? Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. Now that's one of the verses. There's other verses. That's why, you know, anyone who says anything wrongful about Sayyidina Abu Bakr is going against the Quranic description. Quranic description tells us Sayyidina Abu Bakr was the companion of our Prophet ﷺ. There's another verse in the Quran that also tells us about Sayyidina Abu Bakr. Who knows? Huh? Surah Al-Mulk? Which verse? There is a verse in Surah Al-Nur. Which one is it? Yes. Do you know the verse? Who can help him? Who can help him? We need to know the Quran. We have to have it. What is it? Does anyone know it? ولا الآية اللي بيذكرها من سورة النور. He says Surah Al-Nur mentions Sayyidina Abu Bakr. So I asked him, which verse is it? وَلَا يَأْتَلِي أُولُو الْفَضْلِ مِنْكُمْ وَالسَّعَةِ أَنْ يُؤْتُوا أُولِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْمَسَاكِينَ وَالْمُهَاجِرِينَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. So he is mentioned. Allah mentions him as Ulul Fadl. That's the status of Sayyidina Abu Bakr. This is another verse. There's another verse that mentions Sayyidina Abu Bakr in the Quran. And that is, there you go. وَسَيُجَنَّبُهَا الْأَتْقَى. who say الأتقى الذي يؤتي ماله يتزكى وما لأحد عنده من نعمة تجزى. This is a verse that probably everybody has memorized. From which surah? Surah, everyone has to know this, right? This surah our children memorize. Surah? Which is Shams? When Lakhdar? Huh? Surah Al-Layl. Surah Al-Layl. All right, there's another one. So, سَيُجَنَّبُهَا الْأَتْقَى. There's another one. One more, and then I'm going to go into a little bit about Sayyidina Abu Bakr. What's the other one? ذكرناها. والذي جاء بالصدق وصدق به أولئك هم المتقون. من الذي جاء بالصدق? Who's the one who brought truth? Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. من الذي صدق به? The first one to believe, the one who is referred to as the Siddiq. They say والذي صدق به هو أبو بكر رضي الله تعالى عنه وأرضاه. So anyway, these are verses that mention Abu Bakr. What's so, you want to know what's so unique about the hijrah and Sayyidina Abu Bakr? I don't want to spend too much time with Sayyidina Abu Bakr, because everyone should know about the life of Sayyidina Abu Bakr. Even though I want you to do a test. I want you to do a test. When you go home today, ask your son or daughter if they could talk about Sayyidina Abu Bakr for more than 2 minutes. Okay, give him a challenge. Say, if you could talk about Sayyidina Abu Bakr for more than 2 minutes, I'll give you $100. I guarantee you, most likely, unless you taught your children really well, they're not going to be able to speak more than 2 minutes about Sayyidina Abu Bakr. And if they could talk more than 2 minutes about Sayyidina Abu Bakr, then you should give them the $100. Right? Sounds like a good idea. But anyway, so this is the second thing. Now, Sayyidina Abu Bakr, when it came to the hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ, when he found out that he was going to go with the Prophet, he began to cry. And Sayyidah Aisha, when she saw her, she was a young child at the time, when she saw her father crying, what did she say? She said, I never knew that a person could cry so hard from joy until I saw my father crying, that when he found out that he's going to be with the Prophet ﷺ in Hijrah. So Sayyidina Abu Bakr is better as an example than anyone we could possibly imagine. Any actor or any sports person or any... these are the types of examples we should look for in our lives. These are the type of examples that we should put front and center for our children. There's another example. So we went over Sayyidina Abu Bakr. There's another one. Another one that we went over in the khutbah today was, let's go over a female. Next one. Sayyidah Asma, huh? What's Sayyidah Asma bint Abi Bakr? What was her name, by the way? That al-Nitaqain. Why was she called that al-Nitaqain? Do we have any of our children, any of the younger generation who would know? Why was she called that al-Nitaqain? Anyone know? Anyone? What's a nitaq? The belt, right? So what did she do? Who was she married to, by the way? No, Zubayr. She was married to Sayyidina Zubayr. When she was doing hijrah, she was pregnant. What's the name of her son? What's the name of her son? Abdullah ibn Zubayr. One of the great leaders in the history of our ummah. And before she made hijrah, she was helping the Prophet and her father Abu Bakr get ready for the hijrah. So what did she do? She made for them a dinner spread, a lot of food. She didn't have anything to put in it. They didn't have the nice bags that we have to put food in now. What did she do? She ripped her belt in two, and she wrapped the food up, and she took it to the Prophet ﷺ and Sayyidina Abu Bakr. Sayyidah Asma is like a warrior. She's a reminder for every mother, every pregnant woman. Hey, by the way, you're not weak. You're not weak. You're only weak if you allow yourself to be weak. But she was very strong with her will and her himma and her azima. That's why we mention the story of Sayyidah Asma over and over and over again. These are the examples. Like there's this beautiful line of poetry in Arabic where it says, أولئك آبائي فجئني بمثلهم إذا جمعتنا يا جليل المجامع. Yeah, these are our forefathers. These are the ones who built Islam for those who came after, right? So Sayyidah Asma, there's a lot of things that we need to know about Sayyidah Asma. Sayyidah Asma didn't just do that. Sayyidah Asma had to reassure her grandfather. When Sayyidina Abu Bakr left, he took all the money with him because he needed it to support the Prophet ﷺ and to make the hijrah. And she was patient and she endured. And Sayyidah Asma had to deal with being hit by Abu Jahl. Abu Jahl, after 3 days, he came asking, "Where is your father? Where is your father?" So she said, "I don't know." So he struck her as hard as he could. I said this in the khutbah today, Akhi Adam. The Abu Jahl would make a perfect IDF soldier today. He would make a perfect soldier in the because they act the same exact way. La'natullahi alayhim. They do these types of things with women all the time. And look at what they're doing to our brothers and sisters in terms of starving them to death now in Gaza. May Allah Azza wa Jal bring them what they deserve. May Allah give them what they deserve for all that they're doing to humiliate our brothers and sisters. Again, when we learn about these stories, it's not just a story tell, by the way. It's actually to change the way we look at the world. If I know about these examples, I will have a completely different attitude to my problems. Right? I have problems. Well, what do they compare to the companions' problems? So Sayyidah Asma, she said to him, "I don't know." What did he do? He smacked her across the face to the point where her earring fell off. And patient, enduring, sabira, muhtasiba. It's another example from among, who knows another, even if you didn't listen to my khutbah, who knows another really good example from the hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ, from the companions? Who knows? Who can tell me another story? You know? Go ahead. So Suhaib al-Rumi is exactly as you mentioned, the one. What did he do? What was special about him and his hijrah? He gave away everything. Why did he give away everything? Why did he give away everything? Who can help him? Anyone? Why did he give away everything? You came here and you had nothing. And now you want to leave with the money you made. They said no. So he said, what if I show you where all my wealth is, right? So he gave up everything lillahi azza wa jal. Now this is something to ask myself. I need to ask myself this question. If one day I'm put to the test, I need to choose between my deen and my dunya, what am I going to choose? What am I going to choose? Again, I would like to hope that I would choose my deen. But many people are put on in this test and they fail this test. Wal-'iyadhu billah. May Allah protect us. There's other examples. What's an example of being put on the test between your deen and your dunya? An example? Easy example that all men face is with which salah? Salat al-Jumu'ah. You got a job. What are you going to do? Are you going to prefer your job over Salat al-Jumu'ah? Yes? If yes, قَدْ آثَرْتَ دُنْيَاكَ عَلَى دِينِكَ. Go ahead, you'll get your dunya. You'll make the extra money. Another example for our children who are still in school. What's an example of someone being put to the test if they should prefer their deen over their dunya? Give me an example. If they should prefer their dunya over their deen. What's another example from the younger children that are still in school? What is it? Fasting? Explain. يعني قصدك إنه they'd be tempted when they're in school not to fast يعني? That's true. That's true. It's easy to get away with a lot when you're in school, especially if you go to a public school. I went to a public school, so I know. I went to a public school. You could be a completely different person. Because if everyone around you doesn't believe in Allah, then who's going to stop you from doing a lot of other things your parents will never find out about? Right? Nasallahu salama wal afiyah. It happens a lot for our sisters. Their parents might think they wear hijab, for example. As soon as they get to the school, what do? Off. Why? I don't believe in it. And who's going to stop me? Who's going to stop me? I was wearing it so that I don't get punished by my parents. Now they're gone. They just dropped me off at school. Will I prefer my dunya over my deen? There's scary stories of this sometimes. There's a bunch of stories that, especially when it comes to the subject of marriage, some stories, very, 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 very scary, horrifying, very bad decisions. One of these stories, a guy gets to know a girl who's Christian. And he's not very practicing of his deen. And so he wants to get married to her. And she insists that he becomes Christian if he wants to get married to her. You don't believe me? This happens, by the way. It does happen. It does happen. And there are cases that come to us like this. The person leaves his deen because he wants to get married to a girl. By the way, it also happens the other way too. Shaitan yusawwil للناس أفعالهم. Right? وَلَقَدْ زَيَّنَ لِكَثِيرٍ مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. Right? As the Quran says, the shaitan has made the actions of those who disbelieve or those who sin look appealing to them. أَفَمَنْ زُيِّنَ لَهُ سُوءُ عَمَلِهِ. Right? So the other example is of a sister getting to know a guy who's of good character, but he's not Muslim. So she leaves her deen so that she could get married to him. This is a fitna sometimes. This is a fitna sometimes that happens, especially for sometimes some people that are on the fringe. They get exposed to some Muslims who don't necessarily have the good character. And then they get exposed to some people who do not believe in Allah Azza wa Jal. And they have good character. And this becomes a fitna. Oh, I don't want to be with Muslims. I want to be with that. And this person doesn't realize, well, this is human behavior. You have those who are good in their Islam and those who are poor in their Islam. And you have those who are good who do not believe in Allah, and we pray that Allah will guide them. But nonetheless, these are the types of things where sometimes a person's put to the test. Will I prefer my dunya over my deen or not? Now, other examples. By the way, do we have questions coming on or not yet?
We do have a few.
We do?
Yeah.
All right. Before I give you other examples, I'm going to pass it back to Akhi Adam to enrich the discussion. What do you got?
All right. I'm going to start off at the top. I have missed Salah in my lifetime, but I am unsure of how many I missed. How can I make them up, since I know that missed Salah is not forgiven? Not exactly on topic,
Not exactly on topic, yeah.
Top voted, Shaykh.
Top voted. Look, I think that learning about these beautiful examples is a doorway to, because when I go to Salah, when a sister wants to wear hijab, I either am doing it an qana'ah, from a place of belief, or because I have to. When I learn what went into establishing this deen, how beautiful Iman could be, then guess what? I am going to do these things out of willful devotion. And that's exactly what happened with the Sahaba, by the way. The Sahaba, when they were told, Khamr is haram, what did they do? They spilled it in the streets. And by the way, this did not happen from day one. So this person who's struggling with their salah, don't feel bad. Because one of the Sahaba said this: when Islam first came, it was addressing the hearts of people. And when they believed in their hearts, then the rulings came, like salah, like siyam, like zakah, like kada. And then he comments this, is a hadith in Sahih Bukhari. It says what? وَلَوْ كَانَ أَوَّلْ مَا نَزَلْ لَا تَزْنُوا لقلنا لا ندع الزنا أبدا ولو كان أول ما نزل لتشرب الخمر لقلنا لا ندع شرب الخمر أبدا. The companions, he said, if the first thing to be revealed was, don't drink alcohol, what would they have said? We will never stop drinking alcohol. Again, because look, if I'm doing it for other people, if I'm doing it because of culture, if I'm doing it because of outside influence, if it's not coming from here, then guess what? Short-lived. Same thing with salah. But now here's the thing, here's the catch. You know, the shaitan's tricky. All right, so it needs to come on qana'ah, right? So the shaitan could tell you, like this person who's struggling with salah, all right, that means it's okay. Wait till you're convinced to wear the hijab, and then you wear it, right? This is min talbis iblis. You guys know what talbis iblis is, huh? What's talbis iblis? What's talbis iblis? Talbis is confusion. The confusions of the shaitan. The confusion, what is the confusion caused by the shaitan? Oh, well, I'm not ready yet to pray. When I'm ready, then I'll pray. No one could tell me to pray, right? Because what? This is my personal decision. Sure, it's your personal decision, and it'll also be your personal punishment on the Day of Judgment if you don't pray, when you're asked about it and you punish for not doing it. So that's true. Yes, your personal choice, right? But here the reflection is, how can I start becoming someone who wants to pray? I need to invest myself in the lifestyle. Look, the companions, they became Jeel Qur'ani Azim. That's why Jeel Qur'ani Farid. We refer to the companions as a very unique, unmatched generation when it comes to their commitment to the Book of Allah. There's so many stories that are like this. What is it? The companions were told, لا ترفعوا أصواتكم فوق صوت النبي. They were just told this. Sayyidina Abu Bakr and Umar. They were shouting and arguing in the presence of the Prophet. Allah revealed, don't raise your voice in the presence of the Prophet. If you do that, it'll invalidate your deeds when you don't know. What did they say immediately? سمعنا وأطعنا. We listened and we obeyed. And after that, whenever they would speak in the presence of the Prophet, they would only whisper. They would only whisper. SubhanAllah. So anyway, that's another way to look at your struggle with your salah. Is your struggle with salah due to lack of commitment with your heart? The answer, absolutely yes. So maybe I need to listen to more things. Maybe I need to study a little bit more. Maybe I need to learn why we do this, and maybe I need to build more of a sense of love of Allah and love of the Prophet. That's why we're saying, by the way, study the lives of the companions. Because when I learn about them, then I will naturally become more committed. I will naturally want to be more like them, right? So this is the first step to commitment with my salah. Now, of course, there's other things that go into it too, like making sure, we said lifestyle, right? So if I surround myself with things that remind me of Allah and remind me of salah, with people who remind me of Allah and remind me of salah, then guess what? It's going to become a lot easier. It'll only be a struggle if salah is this tertiary thing. My life is hina, salah is over there. It's like this thing that, comes and goes, right? It's not really part of my life, right? It just comes and goes, and for some people it might be an inconvenience. Oh, I don't want to make wudu right now. Oh, I'm tired, right? But if salah is my life, then it's not going to be a struggle anymore. Wallahu a'lam.
All right, to follow up on that, Shaykh, I think this is a pretty good one, all-encompassing. We spoke about some of the Sahaba. So how can we emulate their behaviors, of the best generation in our day and lives, day-to-day lives today? What are the common characteristics they share that we can follow?
Look, can anyone be at the level of Sahaba right now? At their level? Can anyone? You said no. Why? What do they have that we don't have? Huh? Raise your hand. What do they have that we don't have? Yes? Shuaib, you want to say? What do they have that we don't have? Sahaba. The Prophet ﷺ. Their eyes came upon the Prophet ﷺ And for that reason, they have a special status. No one could be like them. You know what makes a Sahabi? What makes a Sahabi a Sahabi? The definition is someone who lived to see the Prophet ﷺ as a believer. They were Muslim. So someone like Abu Jahl, he saw the Prophet, but he's not a Sahabi, of course. He's a kafir. إِلَى جَهَنَّمَ بِئْسَ الْمَصِيرُ. Right? But someone who saw the Prophet while he was alive and that person died as a Muslim. That's what makes a Sahabi. So we can't be at their level, right? But how do I follow in their footsteps? Well, these are the stories that show us how to follow in their footsteps. How do I live that? Well, there's an example in Abu Bakr of this emotional connection with Islam. Like how much he loved the Prophet ﷺ so much that it made him cry when he found out he was going to be with the Prophet ﷺ. How can I become like that? How do I have that type of love for the Prophet? I need to know everything about his seerah. I need to speak about the Prophet a lot. I need to, be in those gatherings where the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ is mentioned, right? If I don't hear about the Prophet, I don't know about his life, I don't remember him, am I really going to love him like that? That's why the Sahaba were special, right? Same thing with everything else. Like Sayyidina Umar, he's another example of someone that we mentioned today. How do we live the example of Sayyidina Umar right now? What did Sayyidina Umar do when it came to the hijrah? Who can remind me? What did he do that was unique? Yes, in the back. He didn't go by himself, but he went what? Someone said it? Publicly, right? So what did he do before he went hijrah? Where did he go? Kaaba. He was in Mecca, of course, Mish Mecca. He went to the Kaaba. And he announced to the mushrikeen. And by the way, a lot of Muslims went with Sayyidina Umar during his hijrah. Why? Because they wanted his protection, right? It's good to be with Sayyidina Umar. Who's going to mess with you? Sayyidina Umar made a very public announcement. And they say he's the only one who did this. They said that one of the Sahaba said, Sayyidina Ali, he said, I don't know of anyone who publicly made hijrah except Sayyidina Umar. He said, if you want your mother to weep over your death, your wife to be widowed, your children to be orphans, follow me past this valley. I'm going to go do hijrah. Come after me. Sayyidina Umar, that's who he was. Again, he teaches every tough guy, right? Right now, I'm a tough guy, right? I go to the gym and, I lift weights and I get muscles. What does my toughness mean? Does it mean I take some selfies of my muscles, يعني? And I feel good because I lift weights, يعني? Is that what my toughness is about? Then it's nothing. They're just as good as balloons. They mean nothing, right? What does your toughness mean? Well, your toughness means your toughness on truth. You have the biggest muscles in the world and you can't control your tongue? What did it benefit you, right? You have all the muscles in the world, and when you see someone next to you being attacked or harmed, you do nothing to protect them. What have your muscles done for you, right? So again, Sayyidina Umar's example teaches, all right, well, you know what? I need to live with purpose. Sayyidina Asma, again, her example, what does it teach us? Right? Every pregnant woman should think of Sayyidina Asma. Sayyidina Asma teaches us, strong willpower. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to do everything. I'm not going to let anything control me. Why? Because أنا مؤمنة بالله عز وجل. I'm going to try my best. Yes, sometimes medical conditions happen. Sometimes things are out of our hand. But to the best of my ability, I am going to persevere. That's what it means. It doesn't mean that we're going to become like bulletproof, right? I'm not going to be bulletproof, right? I'm a human being in the end of the day. Sometimes if a medical condition happens and I can't control it, this is min al-ibtila. However, you will find sometimes examples in our past of people, and even in our present now, Ahl Gaza, right? People who have a lot of disadvantages, that because of their himma and because of their i'tisam billah azza wa jal, they're much stronger than physically capable people. Allahu Akbar. Wallahi, الحياة شاهدة على ذلك. There's a lot of examples from this, from life, right? So that's some examples of how I'd say we begin living. How can I become living like the companions? Well, how did they live according to سمعنا وأطعنا? They had a deep connection with the Quran. If I want my life to be good, I need to try to do that. The companions, Allah was number one for them. Allah Azza wa Jalla and His pleasure was above all things. If I want to be like them, I need to do that. وَهَلُمَّ جَرًّا. And so on and so forth. Wallahu a'lam.
Allah Shaykh, you actually reminded me of something we spoke about in the halaqah. There was two questions, which was, one of them was, what would the Muslims around the world do if the Kaaba was being attacked or destroyed? And then, the other question is, well, what would us as Muslims do if one of our brothers or sisters were being attacked? And a clear modern example is our brothers and sisters in Gaza. And then the question there to follow that up is, well, the Sahaba, how would their answer to that question be different than ours? How would they react?
To the situation of the world today, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously, look, the situation, the things that we can do are all going to be the things within our ability. But for us to live a reality that is, very selfish, I'm not really thinking about what's happening around the world, and I'm just only thinking about my paycheck, my school, my house, my fun, my vacations, this cannot be. If I can't change the reality of the people of Gaza, my heart should be squeezing in pain. I should be making a lot of dua. I should be doing whatever I can with what's in my means to stop what's happening to them. So that's, I think, where the answer lies. Now, if they were here, we wish they were here. We pray a generation comes about that are strongly committed like the Sahaba were, and those people become in positions of power. Because what the situation is we have good people in our time. But usually the people who make it to the top of the food chain, you want to call it, or whatever, the political reality, they are usually, unfortunately in our time, deplorable human beings that need to sell their soul to the devil in order to get this position. They won't get this position and this power and this clout and this political influence unless they make a deal with shayateen al-ins, not shayateen al-jinn. Maybe shayateen al-jinn too, I don't know, but shayateen al-ins at least, right? These are devils among human beings, people who have no consideration for human life, and people who have no consideration for human civilization and what they're doing to the planet and what they're doing to the next generation, and so on and so forth. It's the unfortunate reality. So we pray that one day we could see a situation where the best of us are in the positions of power and influence, so that the right decisions could be made to stop these things that are happening. Yeah.
Shaykh, khalas, and we believe what you're saying. We're ready to take the next step. We're ready to learn about our Sahaba, our righteous predecessors. How do we go about it? What do we do after this? What's our takeaway?
Very good. Well, there's a lot of things. Like, how can I start learning about the Sahaba? People don't like reading. It's hard. But if you can read, there's a lot of really good books. Even for our children. If you have kids that are like in the age range of 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, there's a lot of good books about the Sahaba that they should read. There's this publishing company, it's called Learning Roots. They have the Super Sahaba series. It's all stories about the Sahaba. Let your children get a book like that, books like that, the Super Companions, and let them read it. For the adults, there's so many books. Those around the Prophet ﷺ, Rijal Hawla Rasul, those promised paradise, speaking about Al-Mubashareen bil Jannah. There's so many books. Now, if you can't read, I know everyone here could read, but if it's difficult to read because of your life circumstance, listen. There's so many series out there about the Sahaba of the Prophet ﷺ. So much content. Go listen to one of the series by Shaykh Yasir Qadi. He has a series about the Khulafa. He has a series about the Sahaba. He has a series about the Seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. And so on and so forth. There's many, many things out there that you could. And you know what? Instead of just listening, also, you know what? Why not sit down? Just take one example. Like we're speaking about in this hour. We're not speaking about many examples. Take one Sahabi and go over his life with your kids at home. Just do that. Allah, it's going to make a big difference. It's going to make a big difference when they learn about the Sahaba of the Prophet ﷺ. For them in their life, they'll learn how the Sahaba made decisions, right? They'll learn that sometimes, even if Allah loves you, sometimes life could be really tough. We went over one of the stories today of the woman companion who was separated from her husband and from her son for an entire year, until she was able to reunite with them. This is one of the stories of the Hijrah. What was her name? Salama. Good job. Salama. MashaAllah, you were paying attention really good to the khutbah. I'm not used to that. Right? Last week, what did I say? I said, I think I could give the same khutbah for 6 weeks and no one would pay attention.
No,
that I'm repeating. You guys agree? No, I'm just joking with you. Anyway, so Salama, as you said, she was separated from her husband. When he was going to do hijrah with her, her family came and said, no, you're not going to take her. And then his family came and said, no, you're not going to keep our grandson. So her family took her, and then his family took the child, and they told him, go, do hijrah by yourself. And it stayed like that for an entire year. And this woman, as she describes, was crying every single day. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of, there's a lot of stories in our time. Yeah, may Allah Azza wa Jal reward, how many of you here were born in America? Raise your hand if you're born in America. Raise your hand. Born in America. All right? A good number of you. How many of you are from overseas? It looks like a good number too. A good number of the parents. How many of you are from overseas? Right? A good number, right? Many of your parents, guys who were born here, had to make really big sacrifices when they came to this country. Some of them, they're not allowed to go back to their home country. Some of them, they stayed here for decades, 20 years, 30 years. Their mother, their father passed away. Their family passed, and they could not even attend their janazas. Very big. The story of Salama reminds me of that. Sometimes the pain that's caused from the reality that we're living in, you could not even go back to see your family, and life split you apart. You never know. We're in such afiyah and such ease. You never know what trials are waiting around the corner. So it's another story from Hijrah. Hey, look, just because Allah loves you, it does not mean that your life is going to be so easy. Sometimes, as the Quran says, أَحَسِبَ النَّاسُ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. Sometimes you're going to be called to make the ultimate sacrifices. And sometimes you won't even get the reward for those sacrifices in this dunya at all. It'll be difficulty upon difficulty upon difficulty, and you'll get your reward by Allah Azza wa Jal. This is our belief and our yaqeen. Allah, وَمَا رَبُّكَ بِظَلَّامٍ لِلْعَبِيدِ. Allah doesn't oppress anybody. Wallahu a'lam.
Shaykh, speaking about, obviously this is going to be quite the contrast, but nowadays, especially in the society we live in, we often idolize a lot of individuals, whether it's athletes or celebrities or actors. So the question is as follows: why do we take celebrities and athletes as role models instead of the greatest generation?
Why? Actually, before I answer it, there's one of the brothers, Jazakallah Khair, who brought to my attention, there's another series online that's very easy. If you want to learn about some of the Sahaba, it's very, very easy to follow along because each video is very short. It's called The Firsts. It's by Shaykh Umar Sulaiman. Each video is only a few minutes long, and it gives you a good summary about the life of each companion that's mentioned there. So it's another one that you could look up. The first by Shaykh Umar Sulaiman. So now back to the question. Why do people value celebrities, actors, sports people more than they value these beautiful examples from the lives of the companions? What do you guys think it is? Who wants to give an answer? Why do you think? Habibi in the back. Huh? The celebrities are alive now? Well, there's a lot of people who aren't celebrities that are also alive now. They're not. Why are celebrities getting the attention? Why do you think? What makes them influential? Are they influential in themselves? But think of with me, what or who makes them influential? Like I want you to think of, like imagine if, who's a really good basketball player? Imagine if Stephen Curry. Did someone say LeBron James? Whatever. Stephen Curry with LeBron James, whatever, it doesn't matter. All right. I want you to imagine Stephen Curry, some homeless guy who knows how to shoot really good shots from far away on this broken court in some inner city neighborhood. And no one ever paid any attention to him. Who cares? You could shoot from 50 feet away, good for you. Now, yallah, get out of here. You think anyone would ever listen to him? No. What makes him the person he is? The fact that they made sneakers after him, right? The fact that he's in commercials. The fact that he has tens of millions of dollars coming behind him. The society is what gives its value, right? The society is what gives this individual value. Now, in our society, value is given to who? The one who could bring the most? Money. And you think someone who is a good person and says nice words of wisdom is going to bring you a lot of money? No, that's not going to bring you a lot. We live in a capitalist society. So whoever could bring the most money is going to be the most valuable person, and that's who everyone's going to listen to, right? As for the person, well, that's boring. You're a good person, and why do I want to listen to you? Right? So it's part of actually the philosophy that guides societies. You find in other societies in history, the scholars and the people who have a lot of knowledge are the elites in some points in history, where what's the biggest thing you could wish for is becoming a scholar. Why? Because the scholar has the most power. In history, there was certain times that were like this. In our day and age, in some of our Muslim countries, what does it mean if you're a scholar, quote unquote? I lived in one of our Muslim countries for many years. If you're a scholar, you're going to be the guy who runs after buses. You're going to be the guy who has to work 2, 3, 4 jobs so you could live, right? In some of our countries, being a scholar means you're a loser. That's what I'm serious. And this is part of the sociology, study of sociology. Each nation, the rise of the nation and the decline of the nation is in what they give value. So again, to answer that question, why do they want to learn? There in our society, criminals are given more weight and attention than the academics and the luminaries. That's what it is. Criminals get movies made after them. They get showrooms in museums after them. Their history is documented. Whoa, who can mention to me a name of a big mob boss that everyone knows about? There you go, Al Capone, right? He's a great human. Do you know about him because he's an outstanding human being? No. Who's another one? Someone that's still alive. There you go. El Chapo. Why is he called El Chapo? I don't know. But al-Muhim is El Chapo. I think it has something to do with chopping, maybe, I guess. I don't know what he chops. But al-Muhim, or what he chopped. Now he's in jail, right? Why does everyone know El Chapo? Why? Because he's a great person? No, because of other reasons, right? Nasallahu as-salamu al-afiyah. So that's how I'd respond to that. Don't look at where the limelight is, because sometimes that's not where you're gonna find the goodness. When you look at the celebrities, you find examples of rape and overdose and all kinds of broken family realities and so on. It's very rare for someone to be a celebrity and still be a human being. I'm not a good human being. I'm not gonna say it doesn't exist. Maybe it does exist, but it is extremely rare. Why? Because وَقَلِيلٌ مِّنْ عِبَادِيَ الشَّكُورِ. Most people have a lot of money, use it for all the wrong reasons. Yeah.
Shaykh, what are some good examples of women during the Prophet ﷺ's time that we can read up on?
There you go. I gave you two. What are their names again? What are the two that we gave you guys? Salama, and what's the other one? Asma bint Abi Bakr. And by the way, just as there's a book, this is for the Arabic audience, there's a book called Rijal Hawla Rasul. There's also another book called Nisa Hawla Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Women in the Presence of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And by the way, there's this book that's written by this scholar from who is based out of Britain. He lives in the United Kingdom now. His name's I think is Ahmed Akram al-Nadwi. He has this very big series. It's called Al-Muhaddithat. All of it is about scholars from among the female believers, right, throughout the time, from the companions onward. So it's a massive book. It's over 50 volumes. Over 50 volumes, 50 mujallad, over 50 volumes. It's called Al-Muhaddithat. That'll tell you something. There's a lot in our history about females. But from among the Sahaba, who else can you mention? So Asma, and then we mentioned Salama. Who else? You guys should know the names. There's a lot of names that are big. From the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, who? Khadija. Who else? Aisha radiallahu anha. Who else? Nusayba bint Ka'b, Ayman, right? And who else? Sumayya, all right? We don't know much about her life, but yeah, she's an example. Sayyidah Sumayya. There's a lot of examples from among the Sahabiyat that you could just look for the books. Trust me, subhanallah, one of the most effective ways to Allah is by nourishing this. The more I read, this actually becomes vibrant with life. And the mind, when it becomes awake, it gives good advice to the heart. But if this is messed up with what? Too much video games, too much TV, too much social media, this could become like mashed potatoes. The person could have an attention span of literally 10 seconds. That's what happens. Social media. Literally 10 seconds, I can't listen to anything longer than that. That's why they're doing this with the videos. Right now, the videos, you think anyone, look, this is being recorded right now. You think anyone's actually going to sit down and listen to an hour-long recording? You guys came, and that's why you're listening. Very few people actually sit down. When you look at the, what do they call those?
View count?
The data points or whatever, what do they call them? There's a name for it. Al-Muhim, how long they were watching. For some of the videos, the average length of watching is less than a minute. 30 seconds, 25 seconds.
On a 1 hour video.
Yeah. Yeah, who's going to watch? Just watch the beginning.
Didn't get him with the hook, Shaykh.
Boop. Yeah, no.
We got to work on our
That's
hooks.
why we got to cut it down to a minute. And then you got to cut down the minute to 30 seconds. Because people have no longer any more attention span. It's the reality of life. So I need to read. If I want goodness in my iman, this is what I need to do.
I've run out of related questions, so I have an unrelated question for you, Shaykh. but I'm sure you can relate it somehow.
Okay.
I want to wear, and this is actually a question, but also seeking advice. So I want to wear hijab, but I'm scared I might not be ready. So how do I know if I am ready to wear the hijab?
How do you know you are ready? All right, so how do you know you are ready to wear the hijab? There's no, I told you guys this earlier, there's this thing called talbis iblis. There's no single point when you are ready, right? You know who has the ready button? Iblis. He's the one who's saying, oh, don't do it, you're not ready yet, you're not ready yet, right? No. When they say, take your time and wear it when you're ready, this is for you to go study about hijab, study about the women companions, study about what Islam says about females, study about your relationship with Allah. This is for you to take the initiative to do this absolutely as soon as possible. Right? This is not to say, all right, well, I don't have to wear it until I'm ready. If the shaitan is telling you, well, how do you know when you're ready? I'm telling you, sister, whoever wrote the question, I'm telling you, this is one of the tricks of the shaitan. One of the tricks of the shaitan is to convince you that you're not ready to do something very beautiful. What should you do? I want you to think of the companions. Now, what made them special? What made them special? I want you to imagine being in a society of shirk, literally, people worshipping stones, prostrating to them. Such jahl and ignorance. And Muhammad ﷺ and the Sahaba had to come into this society and say, Ahadun Ahad. They had to say, they had to call to believing in one Lord, right? No partners, no associates. They had to say something that took a lot of courage, right? So what we learn from the Sahaba is having a great deal of courage. And you know what? How do I become courageous? How do I become courageous? I need to just do it. I need to just put myself in the situation, and I'm going to feel very, very awkward for a day or two or three or masharif, and then it's going to go away. Then I'm going to become, how do you become a courageous person? By forcing yourself to do things that you really, really don't want to do. Now this happens, I hope this still doesn't happen with brothers, right? Maybe with sisters I can imagine because they're afraid for their safety. Imagine you're a brother and you're in a public place, wherever it is, the mall or the park or masha'arifah, wherever you're going to be. Time for salah. Or you're in the airport, right? In the airport. Are you going to have the courage to actually stand and, you know what, I'm a Muslim, it's time for salah. لَن أَتَخَلَّ عَنْ صَلَاتِي. I'm not going to miss my salah. I'm going to stand wherever I'm going to stand, I'm going to pray. I'm going to have tawakkul upon Allah. There are people who don't want anyone to know they are Muslim aslan. They try to hide their Muslim identity as much as they can. And I feel bad for these people. I feel bad for them because, why have you allowed yourself to live in such anxiety? I need to even change my name. I need to change the way I look so that no one senses my Islam. No, I'm proud of it. This is how I become a courageous person. Now, I'll tell you, even with basic things like public speaking. When you first start public speaking, what happens? You can't even finish talking for a minute. You get so nervous, the sweating, or stuttering, or mash'arif, but then what happens with time? Khalas, you just start having the courage to do it. So I need to push myself to do these things. And it's actually, the parents should help the children do this. If I don't teach my child to be courageous, then people will pressure them to do all the wrong things and make the bad decisions in their life. I need to push myself to my son to speak up because that teaches him courage. I need to push my son to critically think because that teaches him courage, and so on and so forth. Wallahu a'lam.
Shaykh, I think
that's it? All right, so here, look, before we finish for today, I want you guys to take this with you. Lessons that we learned from the companions. The Sahaba, they realized where the greatest value is in life. We learned that from Sayyidina Suhaib, right? Where's the greatest value? It's with Allah. Have Allah as your number one and don't worry about anything after that, right? They had a willingness to go against what everyone else was doing. And that's, again, it was very difficult. The Prophet ﷺ teaches us this. لا تكونوا إمعة تقولون إن أحسن الناس أحسننا وإن ظلموا ظلمنا. Prophet ﷺ says, beware, don't be that weak human being who does what everyone else is doing. And that you just want to go with the flow. You don't want to be the odd person out. No, don't be that person who just does what everyone else is doing. Speak up if something wrong is happening. You know how this happens sometimes? If you're in a gathering and some people are gossiping. You could be the odd person out and say, you know what, I'm not going to participate in this. You know what, I'm going to speak out against it. I'm not going to gossip. And I'm going to put an end to that. I don't want this. Whoa, well, what are they going to say about me? Maybe they'll get upset with me. I don't care. Allah is number one, right? لا تكونوا إمعاء. I don't need to follow what everyone else is doing, right? This happens a lot in all of our different social circles, whether we're talking Muslims among Muslims or Muslims around non-Muslims. What else we learn from the companions? Be a person who sticks to your principles, no matter what. No matter what. If I'm a person who sticks to my principles, then I am going to be able to get through a lot of troubles in my life. And we learn from the companions, they had a true, genuine devotion to Islam. It was their desire. Their shahwa and their desire was to be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I want to get to that point. I want my iman to look like that. And if I'm able to achieve that, if Islam enters every part of my life, then guess what? I am going to find a lot of khair and barakah and goodness in everything that I do in my life. It's another thing. The other thing about the companions, this is the last thing that I'll mention from their legacy, is they had what we call absolute urgency. They didn't wait. They didn't sit down. They would compete with one. I want to be the best. I want to do the best. And the greatest example from this is Sayyidina Abu Bakr and Umar. They would compete with each other in fi'l al-khair. It's a beautiful thing. If you can have in your life someone that pushes you to be better, it's a beautiful thing. Sayyidina Umar always tried to outdo Sayyidina Abu Bakr in Amal Salih. One time, he said, I'm definitely going to beat Abu Bakr this time. He brought half of his wealth to donate for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. So he said, there's no way Sayyidina Abu Bakr is going to beat me this time. And when he came with half of his wealth, he found Sayyidina Umar, Sayyidina Abu Bakr, brought all of his wealth lillahi Azza wa Jal. And then he said, after that, I knew I can never win. Abu Bakr is better than me. But nonetheless, absolute urgency. It's something that we learn from the Sahaba. There's a lot of things that we could learn from them. Ask Allah Azza wa Jal to forgive us and better us and make us of those who love the Sahaba. Make us of those who are gathered with them in the highest levels of Jannah. And inshallah, again, my advice, the action item from today. What's the action item from the Friday Forum today? Read about the Sahaba. Don't let this summer finish without you taking some time to learn about at least some Sahaba. Find a resource. Sit down with your kids. Make them love and want to learn about the companions of the Prophet. May Allah give tawfiq. Allahumma ameen. Jazakumullah khair. Subhanakallah wa hamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Just one more reminder for everybody, inshallah, next week, the Friday Forum is going to be off for July 4th, but we will be